Okay, we're continuing with quotes, and we're going to do Thomas Huxley and Julian Huxley. These are all part of the same family. My last set of quotes from yesterday, I did Aldous Huxley. Now, Aldous Huxley did some great things. His book, Brave New World, was magnificent. But he afterwards moved from England to California, started experimenting with mescaline, peyote, and LSD, and he became a drug addict, a piece of crap, okay? And that's what happens when you become an atheist. It's very common they become drug addicts and they destroy themselves, okay? Now, let's take a look at Thomas Huxley. He lived during the time of Charles Darwin. He's the grandfather of Aldous Huxley and Julian Huxley. I'll do Julian Huxley next. And he got the nickname as being Darwin's bulldog because he was a very aggressive promoter of Charles Darwin's ideas. And the reason he promoted them so heavily is because he wanted to promote atheism. So regular people tend to think that the world likes them, and I can assure you, if you think the world likes you, you either were born very fortunate, which is probably not likely, most likely you're stupid, okay? Because the beginning of being able to understand what is going on and why things happen is to realize the world does not like you. You're probably, if you're watching my show, you're just another pro like me. I'm a pro, I'm a smart pro, but I'm still a pro. Okay, what that means is no connections to big money, big power, to big anything, all right? And the relevance is you have to be a lot more careful about what you do, what you say, if you are just a pro. And there's a lot of things working against you. Now, why is it that big money loves Darwin? The reason is they use it as the creation story for atheism. Okay, and by the way, Darwin and Darwinian theory, it has nothing to do with creation. You know, Genesis, man was created in the image of God, all right? That's creation. The origin of life on Earth comes from geologic chemistry. It comes from nothing. You can't explain it to go from non-life to life. It's so complicated. If you want to see a video about that, see James Tour. I'll put a link to a James Tour video below, just so you get an idea of how complex it is. People who don't know biology and biochemistry, they think, oh, all of this stuff could have happened, you don't need God. But people who actually have studied a lot of biology and biochemistry, they realize the level of complexity is beyond your imagination. The smartest people in the world, okay, they devote their entire life, 40 years or more, 50 years, their professional career, to figure out one little tiny piece of biochemistry or biology. That's their entire life, 24/7 working on that problem, and they figure out one tiny little part of it. And there's billions of things like that. So what I'm trying to say is it's way more complicated than could have occurred by chance. Okay, let's go on with Thomas Huxley. Here's some of his quotes. So he was a smart guy, and he did say some clever things, but in the end, he was trying to promote Darwinism, to promote atheism, and part of this comes from the English Empire just wanting to conquer all the people. Like my father was from Ireland, all right? So the attitude of the English was they're superior people. With Darwinism, might is right, survival of the fittest. You know, nature red in tooth and claw. If you're the powerful one, you can do whatever you want to other people. So the Irish were inferior, therefore they could abuse them and treat them as slaves. Okay, that's how it works. Okay, so Thomas Huxley said, Darwinism is a new reformation. That's another point I'm trying to make. They viewed it right from the beginning as a new religion. And you should realize it is a religion. All of these things you take for granted with Darwinism, they're based on religion. The science does not back Darwinism for the origin of life. It does not back Darwinism for the origin of complexity. It does back Darwinism for microevolution, variety within a species, like there's a lot of different types of dogs because of selective breeding. Yes, but it does not explain complexity and the variety of species. Okay, Thomas Huxley. The secret of genius is to carry the spirit of childhood into maturity. Free discussion is the very life of truth. Every great advance in natural knowledge has involved the absolute rejection of authority. Now, there's truth in that one. Every great advance in natural knowledge has involved the absolute rejection of authority. Yeah, like when you come along and you show the low-fat vegan diet can cure coronary artery disease and diabetes and hypertension, conventional medicine making billions of dollars off those drugs. Do you think they want to hear that? No. They're going to tell you, first of all, you're going to be ignored, censored, shadow banned, and then they're going to tell you to shut up. Yeah, ask Nick Gonzalez about that one. Okay, Thomas Huxley. Sit down before fact as a little child. Be prepared to give every conceived notion. Follow humbly wherever into whatever abysses nature leads, or you will learn nothing. The most sacred act of a man's life is to say and feel, I believe such and such to be true. The improver of natural knowledge absolutely refuses to acknowledge authority as such. For him, skepticism is the highest of duties. Blind faith, the one unpardonable sin. Yeah, and that's why, when I was away at some of these fancy places like Stanford and Harvard, I was a lot of times kind of lonely and not that happy. I didn't know hardly anybody, if anybody. But the one biggest benefit, I think, is I came out of those places realizing they had a lot of smart people there, but they were full of crap. And they were a bunch of liars, okay? And they will sell and go along with whatever big money says. And again, it taught me actually more respect for Christianity. There is nothing in the world that can stand up to money except Christianity. That'll say, we'll do what is right besides the money. And this has been known for a long time. Cicero, the greatest of all Romans, he said, nothing is secure against money. So you have to say, I will stay, I'm with Christ, I'm not with money. I will stay with Christ no matter what, okay, until the end. You have to do that, otherwise everything gets bought off. That's why so many institutions are corrupted. Only Christianity could improve medicine, could improve our schools, could improve our society. Anybody who tells you otherwise is full of nonsense. Technology can't do it. Technology will be taken by the powerful and used to surveil and enslave the weak, which means the vast majority of people. Just how it works. That's human nature. History tells us that. Okay, let's continue with Huxley here. When you are not allowed to criticize something, that usually means it cannot stand up to scrutiny. Actually, that's my quote. The most effective method of clearing up one's mind on any subject is talking it over with men of real power and grasp who have considered it from a totally different point of view. Yeah, it's valuable to run your ideas by other people. Thomas Huxley continues, science is simply common sense at its best. Okay. The great tragedy of science is the slaying of a beautiful hypothesis by an ugly fact. Science commits suicide when it adopts a creed. Yeah, it's adopted the creed of atheistic Darwinism, and that's how it's become bogus. Materialism, scientists, and neo-Darwinism are creeds. Okay, that's it for Thomas Huxley. And so he's the grandfather of Aldous Huxley and Julian Huxley. Now we're going to do Julian Huxley. Julian Huxley is the brother of Aldous Huxley. So he lived from 1887 to 1975. Just to give you an idea where this guy's coming from, he was a real high-ranking guy in UNESCO. UNESCO means United Nations Education, Science, Culture to Foster Peace. I put it in quotes because from what I can gather, it sounds like they're trying to foster peace by committing Jenna, you know what, she sighed, okay? So here's what he says, and this is typical of the writing you're going to see if you start looking into, all these plans for the future. This is Julian Huxley. The human race is the cancer of the planet. Okay, do you understand that? This is the same old thing I've told you, like when a country wants to declare war on another country, they say they're homicidal maniacs. So what he's saying is human race is the cancer on the planet, and basically if he doesn't lower the population size, it's going to kill everybody, all the important people like himself. Okay? The lowest strata, which means the proles, which means us, are reproducing too fast. They must not have too easy access to relief or hospital treatment, lest the removal of the last check on natural selection should make it too easy for their children to be produced or to survive. So what he's saying is the rich and powerful of the world should deny quality medical care to the proles because otherwise there's just going to be too many proles. They're reproducing too fast. Okay? So they're happy to give money for birth control, for abortion, for adding toxins to the food supply and the water supply that'll sterilize people, like aluminum, like fluoride, like soy, like atrazine. They love that, like MSG, okay, like cell phones in the front pocket. They love that. Okay, he continues. Long unemployment should be a ground for sterilization. Okay, so what he's saying is anybody who's chronically unemployed should be sterilized. What I'm trying to show you is this has been around from a long time. This stuff was like written in the 1940s and the 1950s. Basically, the billionaire perverts of the world in those days, they had already decided there's too many people on the planet. All of these stupid proles are just polluting the place and causing trouble. We need to figure a way to lower their numbers. We need to sterilize them. Eugenics was in full swing back in the USA. They were sterilizing lots of people. Oliver Wendell Holmes approved of it, the big Supreme Court justice, okay? And major organizations. Look at the Democrats. One of their heroes, Margaret Sanger, going around trying to get more abortions to sterilize more people. Okay? Sterilize all the pros. They wanted to sterilize the minorities. This is well known. They talked about ways to infiltrate the black churches so they could get the pastor to support abortion and lower the population numbers in their community, to get birth control into all these communities. They want to sterilize the pro. They wanted to reduce the number of Irish. This has been well known for a long time. And what I'm trying to show you here is their religion is atheistic Darwinism. Their goal is population control of the pros, okay? And the one they see as the biggest obstacle is the white Christian male, because he has a big mouth and he keeps talking about freedom and God and religion. They want to get rid of that. They think the rest of them are too weak or too small or too few or too easily corruptible, it can be paid off, or that they're stupid. That is their attitude. That is where they are coming from. So now he talks about why he's an atheist. Oh, first of all, he says, sooner or later, false thinking brings wrong conduct. So what he's saying there is, people who don't think like him think wrong, and that's going to lead them to misbehave, so we need to get rid of them before they cause trouble. That's what they're saying, okay? They're always trying to justify eugenics. You will see that. Atheism, atheistic Darwinism, is a justification for eugenics. The sense of spiritual belief which comes from rejecting the idea of God as a supernatural is enormous. The God hypothesis is no longer tenable. Okay, remember that phrase, the God hypothesis. The God hypothesis is no longer of any pragmatic value for the interpretation or comprehension of nature. And indeed, it often stands in the way of a better and truer interpretation. Yeah, better and truer means what he wants. What they're also saying right there is, how can we sterilize all the pros and get away with it in eugenics if people keep up with this Christianity stuff? Okay, now he's continuing. Darwinism removed the whole idea of God as the creator from the sphere of rational discussion. God is beginning to resemble not a ruler, but the last fading smile of a cosmic Cheshire cat. So what they're saying, bye-bye God, we are the gods now. We, the rich people who run these international globalist societies, we are the equivalent of gods, and we will decide what happens. And all you pros, shut up. You will own nothing. You will live in the 15-minute you-know-what cities. You will do as you are told. Okay? That's what he's saying here. And I'm just letting you know, this is not a new thing. This has been around since the 1940s, 50s, and even before that, actually. But it just started gaining more momentum. And nowadays, with all the electronic stuff, the computers, it empowers the billionaire perverts over the pros. And the pros need to, become aware of all this stuff and do whatever they can to increase Christianity in the world. That's your best hope.